Te reo ererangi o te mānia. This episode was produced in Otatahi by Plains Media, with support from New Zealand On Air.
Welcome to Spin Me a Tale with Tessa Trolove. Let's step into a world of dragons endearing with Avis and the Promise of Dragons by Healther McQuillan and published by Ahoy, an imprint of the Cuba press in 2019. Close your eyes and let the magic carry you away. Avis flopped back onto her princess bed. Her father had made it for her when she was 6, the only year she wanted to be a princess, and here it remained, with its suspended pink canopy cradling a fine layer of dust. She rolled the dragon's tear around in her hand. This may sound like fairy tale stuff, she thought, dragons and jewels, but it doesn't feel like a fairy story at all. She stood up and walked over to her dresser where she had picked up a little blue satin bag her mother had given her at the airport at the end of their last holiday together. Inside the bag was a heart-shaped locket on a chain. Avis had never worn it. When she opened the locket, there were 2 miniature photos inside, one of her and one of her mother. She took the locket off the chain and dropped it into the bits and pieces saucer on her dresser. Who cares if it's real silver, she thought, and who cares if stupid Aaron Miller paid for it? This is much more precious. It gleamed like a sapphire with a dark blue heart. She attached the bag to the chain and hung it around her neck. The satin bag felt cold against her skin, but inside it the dragon's tear was warm. Avis went to the kitchen and made herself a peanut butter sandwich from the loaf ends left in the bottom of the bread bag. She could hear her father in the shower singing old-school songs in a soapy way. Bruno wasn't up. She took her sandwich outside and sat on the swing so that she could think clearly. According to Melinda's notebook, Avis had made a promise, so she was now bound to a dragon, a real dragon, which would do what she needed just as she was bound to do what he needed. It was this second part that worried her. Dragons in stories were known to be devious, and already she had been devious and stolen for Humbert, even before she'd made the stupidly big promise she couldn't possibly keep. No more stealing, that was a one-off. Avis hated the way the guilt of it stuck like a lump in her chest, as if she had swallowed something without chewing. She was doubly ashamed that Drake Snelling, of all people, knew her dirty secret. "Avie bird," Dad called. "We're out of milk." "We're out of bread too," she called back, and carried on swinging. Her father came outside, rubbing at his head with a frayed towel. "Could you be a sweetie and run down to the dairy? I thought you were going to get some this morning." The last place Avis wanted to go right now was to Papalou's dairy. In fact, she never wanted to go there again. "Why don't we go to the supermarket? Then we could get all the other things we need," she suggested. "The supermarket's cheaper than the dairy." "Not for milk," said her dad, "and we need to watch every cent we've got. Go on, Avie, you're not doing anything else." The dragon's tear began to vibrate inside its satin bag. Humbert was waking up. "You can talk," she snarked back. "I've already been to work today, and I've got to go back soon." Her father stopped rubbing his head and hung the damp towel around his shoulders. "Avis, the last thing I need right now is you making a stink. It's bad enough with Bruno being in a sulk all the time. Just go and get some milk, will you? It's not that hard." "There's no money left in the kitty," said Avis. "There was a $5 note there yesterday." "Well, it's not there now," said Avis, swinging a little harder and then jumping off. Her father disappeared into his room and came back with the $20 note. "It's all the cash I've got," he said. "Make sure you bring back the change." Avis took the note and headed out of the door with a rather dragonish plan hatching in her mind. She had vowed not to steal again, but it wouldn't really be stealing if she used the change for good. She could pay back Mr. Papalou for the chocolate that she'd accidentally taken, and she could buy some more chocolate to feed a hungry, endangered animal. Nobody would be able to deny that she was doing the right thing. Anyway, her father's money was really her money too. If he was a halfway decent father, he would have given her pocket money, which he didn't, for all the chores she did, and that would come to way more. Wrong and right had all become so complicated lately. The stone tingled against Avis's chest, and she knew Humbert needed her. "I'm coming," she whispered, and she clutched her hand to her chest to hold the dragon's tear while she ran. "What have you got there?" asked Drake, snarling, jumping down from a low fence just before the corner. "You been stealing more stuff from old Papaloo?" "No," said Avis, pushing past him. "I'm going to pay him back." "What with?" asked Drake. Avis made a smarmy face, pulled out the $20 note and waved it in front of him. That was a mistake. He was quick to grab the note and he was quick to run away. "Give that back," wailed Avis, and she started to chase. Drake was a fast runner, and he had had a head start too, so Avis was surprised when he suddenly stopped beside the tall green gate. She caught up with him. "Give me back my money," she yelled. "Calm down, rental car," he said with a smirk. "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have your money." He held out his hands, which were empty. "In your pocket," said Avis. Drake turned his pockets out. They were empty. "Maybe you didn't really have any money and you're just making up lies just to get back at me because I caught you stealing," he jeered. "And I bet you've been stealing stuff from people in class. I might just tell them that." Avis couldn't believe that Drake could lie so outrageously with such an innocent expression. "You're stealing now," said Avis, her frustration boiling over so that her voice rasped in her throat. "Give it back. I need it." "What I really need is to get rid of Drake Snelling." A rumbling noise came from inside the gate. "What do you need it for? To buy more chocolate? That's not good for you. It makes you fat." "I need to buy food for the animals I'm pet-sitting and to get Dad milk for his coffee." "What animals?" asked Drake. His eyes looked at the padlock. "Does she have a zoo in there? That sounds like a lion roaring." There was a definite rumbling roar, and it wasn't a lion. It was the empty stomach of a dragon, a hungry dragon, a dragon that wanted food, needed food, demanded food. Its need overwhelmed and compelled Avis. She looked at Drake. "Would you like to come in and see the zoo?" she asked, her face a mask of innocence. Drake nodded. Avis started to unlock the padlock, then she stopped as if she'd remembered something. She held out her right palm. "There's an entry fee," she said. $20. Drake smirked and pulled out the note from the top of his shorts. "Gross," said Avis, but she took it anyway and shoved it in her pocket. She finished unlocking the gate and opened it. "After you," she said, "and watch out for the dragon." She pushed Drake into the garden. He laughed out loud. "Dragon," he said with a derisive snort. "Never laugh at a dragon," warned Avis. She pulled the gate shut and padlocked it from the outside. Then she ran down the road. She imagined the long tongue curl around Drake's body. She imagined the crack of his bones. She imagined herself as an accomplice to murder. Avis didn't need to see Humbert to be aware of his delighted response to the gift she had just given him. The dragon's tear flashed with warmth beside her breastbone. She felt the warmth of Humbert's gratitude spread. It was the promise, she told herself. I didn't have a choice. I had to keep the promise. But this justification did not make her feel good. She felt sick and angry at the way it was impossible to keep everyone happy. She'd chosen to stay with Dad, and that made Mum unhappy. She tried to do her best with Bruno, but he was miserable. She looked after her father, but he didn't seem to notice. Now she had given Humbert what he wanted and had killed an innocent child. Well, not all that innocent. She breathed deeply to compose herself as she approached the dairy, and would have managed it if Aaron Miller hadn't been staring at her from the magazine ad stands. Traitor, she spat at one of the posters and kicked the other one over. Feeling much better, she opened the dairy door with a jangle, strode to the milk fridge and got out a 2-litre bottle. Mr. Papaloo watched her carefully. She put it down on the counter along with the $20 note. Mr. Papaloo said nothing, took the note and got her change from the register. Avis took the $5 note from the pile and handed it back to him. He raised one eyebrow. For the chocolate earlier, she said. Mr. Papaloo paused and then took the note. I noticed that it was missing. Then I remembered seeing you talking to that kid. Drake, what's it? I don't trust that snaky boy. Did he put you up to it? No, said Avis quickly. She did not want to think about Drake Snelling. I was trying to do a right thing and I did a wrong thing. She didn't add that now she had done something far, far worse than steal a bar of chocolate. Just the thought that someone would find out the truth turned her stomach and made her palms sweat. Mr. Papaloo looked at her. I'm glad you came back and put it right. I didn't want to have to tell your dad after all he's been through. His eyes flicked over to look at the magazine display. Avis didn't follow his gaze. She took the change and went to the chocolate stand. There were no more 95% cocoa/cacao bars left, but there was a bar of dark chocolate with premium red chili. Avis knew immediately that Humbert would love that, but she also knew that he needed a more balanced diet, more balanced than chocolate and annoying boys. She shuddered at the thought of Drake's bones splintering just like the blackbird's had. A growing dragon needs protein. She picked up a pack of pre-cooked barbecue sausages that were on special. She took the sausages and the chocolate to the counter and passed over the money. Mr. Papaloo smiled. You're a good girl, really, he said. Everyone deserves a second chance. Avis let herself look at the magazine rack. The latest edition of New Look was out with the headline, Aaron and Laura's Secret Love. Avis's mother was smiling up at Aaron. Her hair was blonder and she had on too much makeup. Not very secret now, muttered Avis. I'm sorry about that, said Mr. Papaloo, looking down at his feet. Then why do you sell them? People want to read that stuff. He shrugged. If people wanted to buy poison, would you sell that too? Said Avis. Would you? Mr. Papaloo shuffled slowly past the cigarette cabinet to the door. I think you better go home now, Avis. Your dad will want his coffee. And I won't tell our secret. This time. Avis took the sausages, the milk and the chocolate. Outside, her foot struck out and kicked over the remaining magazine display. It fell next to the other with a clatter. Mr. Papaloo did not pick them up. Back at Melinda's, Avis opened the gate tentatively and looked around. She did not want to see any evidence of Drake, and luckily there wasn't a thing. No scraps of clothing, no carelessly abandoned foot or ear, no congealing pool of fresh blood. Humbert was still under the rhododendrons, his hum rumbling with hunger and his snout twitching at the packet of sausages. That's ridiculous, said Avis. That boy should have filled you up for hours. There was a load of protein in him. Humbert snorted. Did you want me to eat him? He hummed. It was hard to tell. Avis hung her head and stood still at the sense of power she felt kicking over the ad stands drained out of her feet and into the ground. It seems like I have to do what you want, no matter how much I hate it, she said bitterly. What are you turning me into? A dragon? Avis felt tears coming. And what are you turning me into? Humbert chuckled. A lily-livered human? It works both ways. Besides, he hummed, it appears that I can't do anything that would make you feel really bad. He nodded his dragon head towards the tunnel house. Through the window in the double-locked shed, Avis could see the pale, terrified face of Drake Snelling. She almost collapsed to the ground in relief. I really wanted to eat him, hummed Humbert. You wouldn't believe how much I wanted to, but I couldn't because you really wanted me not to. I thought I wanted you to, said Avis. I thought I had a dragonish heart. Humbert snorted a laugh again. You do realise you'd never even thought of locking that boy in the garden with me if I hadn't have nudged the thought into your mind in the first place. Avis wasn't so sure. Getting rid of Drake Snelling permanently seemed like a good idea at the time. Now she was glad he wasn't dead, even if it made him an extra problem. Humbert reached out a sharp claw and grabbed the packet of sausages. Wait on, said Avis. She removed the plastic packaging. That would make you sick, you silly duffer. Humbert's laugh became a growl. Don't laugh at me just because there are things I don't know. I am sorry, but you keep laughing at me, said Avis. You're going to have to stop being so sensitive. I don't think I can. It's a dragon thing, said Humbert as he swallowed the string of pre-cooked sausages in a long slurp. Avis offered him the chili chocolate, but he shook his head. I thought you'd like it, said Avis, disappointed not to have pleased the dragon. I'll love it, he hummed back. It's just that something in it slows me down, and I feel like exploring. For that I need to be fast. And invisible, said Avis, getting his drift at once. Humbert was already bleary around the edges as if his colour was leaching out. I have to take this milk back to Dad, she said. Don't go anywhere before I get back, promise. Then don't be too long, he warned, twisting the promise to suit himself. Avis glanced at Drake Snelling's alarmed face behind the glass. That was a problem, a big problem, but not her most pressing one. He was contained for now. She paused. How did you know the combination? Humbert laughed out loud. I got it out of your head, just one of my tricks. Avis ran out the gate, locked it carefully, and scooted around the corner onto Menagerie Street. She felt the dragon's tear vibrate against her chest, urging her to hurry. They were each bound to the other's command, but she sensed the dragonish wile in Humbert. If she broke her side of the promise by not being quick enough to return, then he would have no qualms about breaking his promise to stay put. And how many more tricks does he have up his scaly sleeves? Bruno was in the kitchen on Dad's phone. He grunted something and beckoned Avis over. It's her, he said, and passed the phone to his sister. Hi, Mum, said Avis. You've had your hair dyed. It looks weird so blonde. She listened to what her mother was saying, and at the same time tried to communicate her disgust to Bruno, who was swigging the fresh milk directly from the bottle. Do you want to talk to Dad? She asked when her mother was finished, but was told they'd already talked and it was all sorted. See you tomorrow then, said Avis, and hung up. Bruno wiped away the milk moustache with the back of his hand. So the big man, Aaron Miller, is coming back to face his critics. Mum said we could go to the TV studio if we want, said Avis. I'm not going, said Bruno, but you can choose for yourself. I'm not either, said Avis. I'm not going near anyone with cameras. She was recalling the beach shots that had appeared in some magazines after their spring holiday together. A long lens had captured them when Aaron had picked her up as if she were a rugby ball and run her into the sea. The caption read, Rugby Star in Family Frolics. You should see what they put about us in those gossip magazines, Avis said. It's worse on the internet, said Bruno. Dad says don't look. It's hard when people tag you in, said Bruno. He put the lid back on the milk bottle. It's hard for Dad too. Avis remembered how her father had hugged her at the airport. I thought you weren't going to come back, he said. Then Avis had felt guilty that she had ever considered staying with Mum and Aaron. The huge house, the swimming pool, the designer kitchen with the fridge that had an inbuilt ice dispenser, all of that seemed so enticing at the time. Where's Dad? Asked Avis. Bruno shrugged his shoulders towards their father's bedroom as he picked up Dad's phone to return it. Tell him I'll bring him his coffee. Avis turned on the jug and spooned coffee granules and sugar into the cup. While she waited for the jug to boil, she reached into her pocket and pulled out the packet of chili chocolate, opened the cardboard casing and folded back a corner of the silver foil. She snapped off a thin, jagged shape and took a tiny bite. The first taste was of dark, warm chocolate, a taste that intensified as she bit down and the chocolate softened and dissolved between her teeth. A moment later, the second flavour came, a warm tingling on the roof of her mouth and down her throat that lasted between bites as she finished it off. The dragon's tear hanging around her neck gave a small vibration, a warning from Humbert not to eat too much. She smiled. Just that small taste had made her feel bigger. When the coffee was ready and topped up with milk, just the way her dad liked it, she knocked on his bedroom door. He was sitting on the rumpled bed, scrolling on his phone. Avis handed him the mug. Thanks, love, he said without looking up. Did you talk to your mum? Aaron's coming back to record an interview for the Zoom-in program, she said. They arrive in the morning. Mum said they'd pick us up and take us out for lunch. But we're not going to the studio. You should. You both need to see as much of your mum as you can. She needs to see you too. It might be best if I drop you two into town, though, he said. Don't want the photographers following her here. He glanced out of the window and gestured hopelessly to the rusting mower in the middle of the overgrown lawn. Imagine what they'd say. Although she felt sorry for him earlier, and for Bruno. Avis hadn't really considered how they'd felt about all the media stuff. It was Dad's weakness, the surrender in his gesture, that riled Avis. She breathed out sharply through her nose. The heat of the chili steamed out, and when she breathed back in through her mouth, it turned into fierce words. "You mean imagine what Mum would say," Avis said, grabbing the phone off her father. He had been looking at a post about Aaron Miller. "See him? He's not the problem." Her father flinched and she continued, "I can't do everything around here. I need some help." Her father stood up, nearly spilling his coffee, and looked at her in shock. "Bloody hell, Avis, you sound just like her sometimes." Avis felt her heart beating hard and fast. The dragon's tear around her neck got hotter and hotter. Waves of heat seemed to be coming off her body as if the chili chocolate was pushing through the pores in her skin. The waves reached Bruno, who was standing in the doorway listening. He moved in beside Avis. "Maybe you should take more notice, Dad," he said, putting an arm around Avis. "She's the only one around here doing anything to hold this family together." Avis gave Bruno a grateful smile. Dad took his phone back from her. He held up the screen with a close-up of Aaron Miller in full flight, about to score a winning try. "How was I ever supposed to compete with him?" he asked. "You weren't," said Bruno. "You just have to compete against yourself. Mum's gone. Pick up and move on. Be the best you that you can be." Avis and her father both looked at Bruno in astonishment. He shrugged off their surprise. "We had a motivational speaker guy at school assembly last week, okay? He had no legs. He'd been in a motorcycle crash, but he didn't mope or complain." The way they'd looked at him made Bruno uncomfortable. He threw up his hands in mock surrender. "Okay, I never said I practice what I preach, but I thought it was worth thinking about." Their father closed the site on his phone and put it on the bedside table. "You're good, kids," he said. "I'm lucky to have you." Then he slapped his thigh. "Right, no more moping." He drained his coffee in a couple of gulps and marched past them into the kitchen to put the mug into the sink. "Dishwasher," Avis said, pointing. "Right," said Dad, and put the cup onto the top rack. "Right, if your mum's coming over tomorrow, then we'd better have this place looking neat as a pin. Can't have her thinking we can't cope." He looked out of the window at the overgrown lawn and the abandoned mower. "It's going to be all hands to the deck to make this place look respectable, from the street at least." "All hands on deck, Ralphie," corrected Bruno. "I can't," started Avis. Dad's shoulders slumped, and it made her sad to think that he might lose his newfound energy just as quickly as it had arrived. She changed what she'd been about to say. "I can't right now. I have to get to my job. But I can do some weeding and tidy the edges tomorrow morning. You know I'm a lark." Her father nodded. "Rightio then. We night owls might have to burn the midnight candle tonight." He jovially clasped Bruno on the shoulder before heading outside to drag the uncooperative mower to the garage. "Midnight oil?" Bruno shook his head. "Crap, I shouldn't have opened my big stupid mouth." Then he turned to look at Avis. "It looks like we're going to the TV studio after all. The decision has been made for us. But it's easier that way, eh? Anyway, how's the job going?" "Good," she said, lying big time. "Great," he said. "You better get back." He headed out to help their father. Avis grabbed her backpack and unpinned it. Out fell Melinda's notebook on the teacher choker, which she'd forgotten to return. She'd have to do it later because a list of what she needed to pack for this trip had formed in her mind. She shoved in a warm jacket and an old woolen hat that her mother had knitted for her years before, and which had stretched from so much wear, a pair of thick track pants and a pair of sunglasses. She grabbed 2 muesli bars and an apple and filled a bottle of water. Those all went into the pack too. She placed the packet of chili chocolate on the top and pulled the zip shut. The dragon's tear around her neck was humming impatiently as she opened the front door. From the garage, she heard the sound of the lawnmower spluttering to life, then dying again. Bruno and Dad both groaned in disappointment, their heads bent over the uncooperative machine. Avis called out a goodbye and heard a couple of "see you laters," a rumble of the mower starting, and a loud cheer. That's all for today's adventure on Spin Me a Tale. Don't miss the next chapter, coming your way next Saturday at 9:30 a.m. on Plains Media. broadcasting on 96.9 FM. Stay curious and keep the magic alive.